patrolling along the back deck, doing some work on the sides. We are always active here on the ship, and we broadcast everything that we can to all of our viewers at home. So you can tune in at any time and see where we're at, and we try to keep you updated as much as we can when we're preparing to do dives. So as soon as we know and we get information on when weather is clear and we head on a dive, you are always the first to know. So you could always check us out live on our website. And we also got our great team at Ocean Networks Canada as well too, where we're recording all of our data and everything that we're collecting on this mission. So if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about the ins and outs of the scientific data that we're collecting, you can always head over there. We have the link posted up right now on our main page where we list all of our updates.
I know a lot of folks have been enjoying watching our live feeds when we are weathered out and not diving. Getting
Yeah.
to see how big the swells are on the bow camera, seeing the A-frame swing back and forth, up and down across the horizon.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive when you see channel 1 and channel 2 and you can see how out of sync our bow and our aft cam are.
Yeah. Yeah, just don't watch it too long because that'll make you seasick. Although if you're on the ship looking at the bow camera, it can actually help.
It actually does when you watch the camera feeds and going through the movements, because it feels kind of like you're in a 4D experience, and so it actually helps settle you a little bit.
We joke sometimes that if folks watching at home really want to have like the full experience, you can go into like a dark room in your house or like a closet and sit on the floor and like rock back and forth, and like that's pretty much what we're doing here in the control van.
Yeah.
With some twinkle lights, maybe.
Some twinkle lights.
Yeah. And don't forget the snacks.
Oh yeah. Speaking of snacks, if you're asking how is the food aboard the Nautilus, well, you can ask my stomach that right now, because my stomach is full of cake and ice cream at the moment. So I will be sleeping like a baby once I get done with this shift. So yes, the food is great. We have Sunday night ice cream nights, which are fantastic, and always some sort of treat to dessert or bread or whatever, some carb-filled goodie that I consume on a regular basis. But our meals each day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, are all fantastic, as everyone here could attest to.
So science, are we doing a transect all the way down to the seafloor?
Just the first 1,000 meters.
First 1,000, roger.
You wish, right?
All the way down. It'd be a long descent.
That's why I was asking.
Oh.
Just making sure.
Great question. Why does Argus appear to bob up and down while Hercules just descends? It's because Argus is bobbing up and down. It is attached to our ship, and our ship is constantly bobbing up and down, as we were just talking about. We're in constant motion here on the surface of the water, and so since Argus is attached to the ship, it moves with the motion of the ship as well. So as we are going up, Argus is going up and down along with us. But Hercules is fully controlled by our amazing pilots here, which you can see on channel 3. And it's making its descent down to the seafloor, separate, still attached to Argus, but on a separate tethered cable. So it's able to navigate in multiple different directions and make a smooth descent down to the seafloor. But Argus is attached to us and moves in unison with us as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of the purpose of Argus, is to decouple the ship's movements from Hercules.
Yes. Yes, yes.
They're different types of connections between the ship and Argus and Hercules. Like one's a soft tether, and the other is an armored cable. So one's more rigid, and the other one is meant to be more flexible. So that allows for the movements between them to be separate.
Yes, absolutely.
So science, Fabio, what are you looking for anything in particular during this transects?
We're looking mostly for gelatinous plankton, yeah, jellies and ctenophores, and yeah, we're looking for temporal changes in the community. And as you probably know, the Northeast Pacific went through a couple of marine heat waves in the past few years, and we are trying to track the changes in the pelagic community that the marine heat wave brought.
Have you been seeing a lot of pyrosomes?
Not this year, but yeah, last year in 2000.
That's why you can't hear me.
2000. Well, we had the marine heat wave, a big one. It lasted between 2013 and 16, and in 2000. Oh, look at this.
Whoa.
Wow.
Ooh.
What is
that?
Is that jelly?
What?
Definitely not a jelly, but it's
Eggs?
eggs of something. I should
That
mark
was
that.
exciting.
I've seen a few of
I got the
those
time.
in Argus View
Oh,
earlier
yeah.
throughout the
There's one.
dives.
Is it egg sac?
Oh,
think?
squid below Herc. Hello, squid.
Oh, there's
Another
Another
one.
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
That's
probably a
larvation.
larvation
That's a
house,
snot
yeah.
house.
Oh, is it?
Probably a what?
That's a snot house.
Larvation house,
Larvation house?
yeah. So they have this mucus ball that they filter the plankton, and then they discard this after they eat all the plankton. They discard. I can show you a picture. It's gonna make clear, more clear.
sorry.
Sorry, I'm mixing in between the stories. Let
Yeah.
me finish that story.
Okay.
So, okay, we saw lots of pyrosomes in 2016 on our cruise. And if it was, I think, when the marine heat wave hit, we saw a lot of them in Barkley Canyon. And a year later, we saw them offshore at Cascadia and Endeavor, too. So there was a spatial dynamic here.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of them all the way from Southern California up to
This year?
Pacific Northwest. This year, yes, actually. Earlier this year during our shakedown cruise, and then again, I believe along the Cascadia margin.
I touched one.
Touched a
Typical.
sea pickle.
There we go. Yeah.
Mermaid fingers.
Yes.
Oh, siphonophore. I don't think you're on SPL. Oh, very good.
I like to do that just to hear what you're saying. I'm
Now,
kidding.
now
I'm
the
kidding,
pilot
I'm
is
kidding,
not
I'm
green.
kidding.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that's what you want.
Not green for the pilots, yes.
How do you know I'm forced listening? I see. So I'm gonna turn you off too, co-pilot. Just did.
Polite audio adjustments.
In Maynard.
Yep. Ooh. So is
Ashley,
it? So there's multiple creatures then. It's multiple creatures. Just one.
did you say that pyrosomes came on board?
When did we get fire? What?
Oh, no, it was Kylie.
Yeah. I mean, I've touched
Yeah.
I've touched pyrosomes before.
Yeah, they were weird.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Oddly
expecting
hard.
them to be so small
Yeah,
or hard.
Sometimes they are larger.
yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
They were like, they were
Um,
like finger size, and they were like
Oh.
ribbed.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had larger ones that are like pickle, large dill pickle size.
Yep.
That are
Large
more
actual sea pickle
speckled.
size.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're like a not translucent, like
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
opaque, like
Yeah.
with like a whitish color.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Well, and sometimes they bioluminesce.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So then you get a glowing sea pickle.
I'd say anywhere from a gherkin to a dill pickle.
From a
Is
a
a
cornichon to a dill pickle.
is a pyrosome like a single cell? What is it? What is a
No.
pyrosome? What does it fit into? What box does it fit in?
Well, it's a chordate.
Tunicate.
A what?
Tunicate?
Yep.
Tunicate? What is that?
That's
a
very
similar
close to
one.
us humans.
Okay.
But
They
with
have
some
a...
differences.
But
What's
some
the
We'd like to
difference?
hope.
Educate me, please. Is it closer to like us, or is it closer to like a diatom?
Yes.
closer to us.
They're closer than
Okay. So
a
it's a smart
polychaete
guy.
worm.
What one?
Than a polychaete worm.
Oh, I
So
don't know
between
that.
us, so
I don't know those.
farther than fish, closer than a worm.
Exactly.
So
It's a strange game.
Yeah.
And
It's a hard game
and closer
to
than a
speak
sea star.
science. Closer than a sea star,
Yeah,
further than a worm.
yeah.
Wait, what? I don't think I got that.
Further than a fish.
Further than a fish, closer than a
Closer
worm.
than a closer than a worm, or closer than a sea star. That works too.
Closer than a sea star, further than a fish.
So developmentally, it shares some characteristics with other vertebrates.
Okay.
We are vertebrates.
Developmentally, it is similar to vertebrates.
Well, yeah.
It is
similar
a
to-
vertebrate?
Not vertebrate. It's a
Has-
chordate.
Has a
It's a chordate.
primitive spinal cord.
Mm-hmm.
A spinal chordate. And a chordate is an
primitive.
example of a...
We are chordates.
We are chordates. I'm an example
Speak
of a
for
chordate.
yourself.
Trevor, what do you need to tell us about yourself?
I'm spineless.
I could have told you that.
Keep it civil, folks, please.
I like playing this game trying to figure out what a thing is, because I thought if I had never played this game with a scientist, I would have kept thinking that plankton was like a species.
I mean,
And no.
okay.
It's like it's a description of things that are
Yes.
small, which
Yes.
I thought, because of SpongeBob, that
There are
plankton
multiple
was like a
species.
type of a thing.
Yes, there are many,
You
many,
know.
many things in the plankton.
Yes, and then a phytoplankton is like a thing that makes photosynthesis and is small.
Uh-huh. Yes, but there are also many different species.
Oh
of
my gosh,
phytoplankton.
yes. But I'm one step closer to understanding a little piece of it.
So one step closer to science, one step away from SpongeBob.
And they are colonial, right? You
Yes.
said earlier, you said right. They're colonial organisms.
So a diatom is like my example of a phytoplankton.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nailed
That's a
it.
good one.
And I happen to know that they're barrel-shaped.
Sometimes.
Some.
What? Sometimes.
absolute
Caveats for
science.
everything.
Yeah.
There are many shapes of diatoms.
Some big
Depends on the shape
disc
of the
shaped.
barrel.
Like
Yeah.
circle from the top.
Yeah,
Pudgy square
diatoms
from the
have some
side.
really great geometric shapes. Like there are some that look like stars. There are some that are triangular. There are some that are circular.
Who's that artist that does the diatom micro?
Oh, photography, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are the benthic diatoms that are cool too. There are the pennate. There's a whole
Mm-hmm.
different group of diatoms that live on the seafloor.
Benthic meaning a certain
On the
depth, right?
live on the seafloor.
But does that mean the seafloor no matter what, or does that mean a certain depth of water? Because hadal, right, is like deeper than benthic.
No, you can
No.
have benthic. that
Benthic is the
bigger.
ecosystem. We're comparing benthic to pelagic. Pelagic
Okay.
is the water column. It could be bathypelagic, could be abyssopelagic, or
Oh, okay.
hadopelagic, or
Mhm.
Roger. Okay.
What
so.
do you call stuff that lives on the surface?
Epipelagic.
Epi.
Epipelagic.
Like
Oh,
the
that makes
skin
sense.
of the surface.
So if you ever listen to Mr. Ray's
Sorry.
song in Finding Nemo, then he goes through the depths of the ocean.
Wow.
There's epipelagic, mesopelagic, bathypelagic.
That's right.
Oh.
The Stingray song.
Yep. So
Wow.
pelagic, anything ocean, benthic, anything associated
With the
with the
bottom.
bottom.
Okay.
And then you can also have little fun spin-offs like benthopelagic.
Yeah, bentopelagic coupling. That's what we study in the Neptune Observatory and a bunch of instruments we have. We are measuring the connectivity between the ocean surface and the seafloor. Fluxes of organic matter, phytoplankton, zooplankton.
Yeah, and just to give you some more blow your mind,
Yeah.
then there's also different types of plankton. So holoplankton is something that spends its entire lifestyle as a plankton. It's like is always planktonic.
What's
But
the
then
prefix?
holoplankton?
Volo?
Yep.
With a V?
H.
Oh, hollow?
Holo as in like whole.
Complete.
Okay, okay.
But no, but not with the silent W.
Okay. Like more like holistic.
Yes.
Okay.
Same root word, yeah.
Okay.
But then there are also different type of planktonic organisms that will spend part of their life as plankton and then will settle out and then be different non-planktonic organisms later in life.
That's what we call meroplankton,
Yep.
and that's what we're sampling with all those beautiful larval tube traps that you're been helping to deploy. Those things that we put on the bottom.
Yeah.
That we're sampling for the meroplankton.
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 Yeah, and almost all marine organisms spend at least a portion of their life cycle as planktonic. So fish will be planktonic at some point, even if then they go and live in the coral reefs later or something.
Some myctophids. That's the lenterfish layer we're starting to go through.
I don't think that was myctophid.
No?
No, it didn't. It looked really deep-bodied.
Deep-bodied.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, help.
Deep-bodied. The body is
You piqued my interest.
versus shallow versus like I don't know, like more torpedo shape would be like a shallower body, and then if the body is fat on the vertical, then it's got a deep body.
Oh, Roger. Okay. Okay.
Torpedo versus not.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
Biology Blue Watch.
I really appreciate going over certain terms, right? Because then you can engage a little more in the conversation, just by sorting out the language, right?
Yeah.
And it was something I was always really uncomfortable to do because I'm like, oh, I do this job, I ought to know. But like, that's not in my know. It's my job to ask.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. And then we all get to learn.
It's all of our jobs to ask,
Yeah.
right? We're all learning stuff as we do this process, and that's why we have this expedition, because we're all curious and we want to know more about the ocean. So I get to learn more every single time I join this amazing group here.
Okay, Ashley, what about this fish?
I'm trying to. I mean, it would make the depth makes a lot of sense to be a myctophid.
The depth of its body.
No, the depth of the water.
Is it deep-bodied?
That's also good question. Fair question.
You know, we're going to be asking you that the rest of this dive. Is that deep-bodied or shallow-bodied?
Or not?
There you go.
The eye looks like a myctophid eye. I mean, it's a real safe guess to say it's a myctophid.
Well, it's just a depth around between 300 and 500.
Yeah, this is myctophid depth. Myctophid being lanternfish, and it looks like it's got a caudal organ.
Well,
yeah, it looks like.
Where are you looking for the organ?
So some myctophids, not all, will have a luminescent organ right before their the back tail fin.
Okay.
There you go. Now you can
see it. That fin is called a caudal fin. And so there's a caudal luminescent organ on some species of lanternfish, not on all.
Okay.
It's definitely myctophid.
Yeah, these are definitely myctophids.
Whew, okay.
So these are lanternfish. They're one of the most abundant mesopelagic fishes. And they migrate from deeper depths up to surface water at night daily. They're what's called part of the Deal vertical migration.
Yes, twice a day.
Yes, that is the largest migration on Earth. So
the largest on Earth?
Yeah.
The lanternfish? What's the range?
Not just the lanternfish.
Because there's a lot of
in terms of biomass, the biomass of animals.
Well, because it's also the
diatoms do it.
Meso and the midwaters of the ocean are the largest habitat on our planet, and there are millions, hundreds of millions, I don't know, billions of organisms every day that go from deep water up to the surface of the ocean every night to feed. And then there will be, so like these lanternfish will travel upwards even though they're following us downwards right now. They're going to migrate upwards. And then there are larger predatory organisms that will, like dragonfishes, that will follow them up and eat on them. And then some epipelagic, so shallow water organisms, will eat them as well. So like these lanternfish are really important food, like base of food web for other species that we rely on, like tuna. So then they'll also go up to the surface, become food for commercial fish that we rely on, and then they'll eat up at the surface, and then as daylight comes, they'll go back down to depth, and then they transport carbon that they gain from the surface waters back down to the deep ocean, which has less nutrients available because there's no photosynthesis happening. So they're really important in carbon transport.
And daylight comes and they want to go home.
The twilight zone.
Daylight comes.
Yeah, into the twilight
I
zone.
wanna go home.
Thank you.
I got that one.
Thanks for the pickup.
Hey-o.
Hey-o.
Oh, let's finish it.
Harry
Daylight
Belafonte.
come, me one go home. Die.
I think that was on an episode of The Muppets.
This is an episode of the Muppets.
Where are the
Muppets
old men
control
that's sitting
van.
in the...
That would be me.
Come, Mr. Taliban, tally me banana.
Tally me lanternfish.
Les Waldorf.
How many verses of the song are there? I don't even know.
As many as we make.
I can just see the Beetlejuice, them dancing in that.
Oh, that's it. Beetlejuice had it. Too.
Yeah.
Daylight come and make Tophet go home.
I haven't heard a Nautilus song in a long time.
I got a question about science. A Nautilus shell, is that, what level is that? Is that a species? Is that a family?
Nautilus is a, well, I think,
Species of
is there only
cephalopod.
one extant species of Nautilus anymore?
Yeah, I think so.
So type
an
of
octopus.
cephalopod, so related to squid and octopods.
Yep.
Okay.
And
cuttlefish. Cuttlefish
yes.
in that family as
And
well,
then
too.
nearest grouping to that would be other mollusks, so like bivalves, so clams.
Okay.
So you say that only one still alive?
I
One
believe so.
extinct species, right?
Extant, yeah, living still versus extinct, no longer alive.
Nautilus is a living fossil, one of the oldest known species. About 400 plus million years.
What about the Argonauts? You guys know that?
Tell me about it. Stud.
Well, it's an octopus. They're pelagic octopuses, but they have this shell. It looks like a plastic shell.
What?
Yeah, white plastic. Yeah. You should Google Argonaut.
Argonauts.
They have a lot of those off Brazil.
So what's the deal with the Nautiluses where they pressurize their chambers separately? Is that the deal?
Yeah, it's their ballast.
Their ballast.
So they have different chambers within the Nautilus shell, and so they use that to regulate their buoyancy.
So they can
So
float
that
if
they
they
can
want,
move,
or they
yeah.
can go to the
Yeah.
bottom if they want.
Yeah, because they also live pretty deep,
Okay.
and they've got a shell, and so that's that's heavy in the ocean.
Sure.
So that was their kind of one of the evolutionary predecessors to buoyancy control in that lineage.
That's crazy.
Oh, it
And
is.
then they lost shells, and then
You
it's
reading
easier
the
to be
plan?
buoyant.
It's
So-
a mess.
I think somebody described the
I mean,
texture, not the
so
texture,
many
not like the
questions
feel of their
that
shell,
really
but like
just
what
is like,
the way it is composed, their shell,
you know,
as like peanut brittle that's like filled in with like peanut butter or something.
Like
Like
what?
it's like a texture-y thing,
Mhm.
like a fractured thing.
I asked
that
somebody
is
on
filled
shore,
in the
I said,
voids,
"Hey, put
because
this
they were
thing together,
trying
how
to
long
like
is it?" He said,
replicate
that was Sergio, so
the-
he said, it's about 5 meters.
the idea of it being its own ballast. They were like trying to replicate it in
You
like a
didn't hire him.
biomimicry kind of way.
Yeah.
He
But it's, like,
didn't
such a
sign off on his
difficult-
overtime.
Mhm.
And
Thing
Sergio's a
to,
good guy, though.
um,
So I mean,
uh,
this is if necessary.
replicate outside of its own actual biology.
Okay, but what does that mean? Like, if necessary, how do we know if it's necessary or not?
Hey, Fabio, what are these little rosette thinking? Have you seen those? They're like little, they were just little circles. Could have been eggs.
I don't know.
If I see another one.
I just saw in the kind of in the dark.
Yeah.
Polychaetes.
Hey, video, how, oh no. That was Tammy yelled at me before. How's my mic sound? I was told I was crackly before.
You're
no longer crackly.
No longer crackly.
Yay.
Clear and concise.
Nice. So
you got all the Rice Krispies out of your mouth.
We're a little more than halfway to 1,000 meters.
Yes.
See how quick it goes?
Yeah.
It's all the biology talk.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
Blue water is my favorite part.
I know. It is fun to see what
So, Fabio, how far down in the daylight does the sun shine?
Depends how much sunlight.
On a bright sunny day.
On a bright, well, again, depends how much light you want to talk about is penetrating at that depth.
800 meters.
800 meters?
Really?
Does it also depend on surface conditions?
There's some faint light that still arrives.
Yeah. And that's why
ultraviolet light penetrates. Yeah, that's about.
And that's why at our Cascadia Basin site, we have 2 different experiments, straw and straw B, that are set up to measure the light that's down there, but the purposes of evaluating the site as a potential future neutrino detection site, which is very cool. If you like neutrinos, or you're a pure physicist and you like physics. Anyway, so we've been working with that. Nautilus was there a couple of years ago, and it is dark down there, but we do have bioluminescent organisms that exist at that depth, and one of the spin-offs of these detection systems has been to see some of the bioluminescent organics that are living at that depth, which is almost 3 kilometers deep.
Chris, am I able to see the CTD?
Just had the first paper published.
Salinity profile?
This month.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Is that a thing you
Journal of European Physics.
So it was interesting with that one because what basically happened is they had a neutrino system that they deployed in the Mediterranean that didn't quite work out as well as they had hoped. And it was one of those things last minute. Somebody said, Ocean Networks Canada has a network cable offshore, and the network system offshore has been functioning for more than 10 years.
Either way.
And that we might have the expertise to help them out. And Adrian Round, our then executive director of operations, flew over to Germany for a meeting and walked away from the meeting with them committing to deploy something in 2019, and then 2020 we deployed again, and possibly next year we'll do, or in 2 more years we'll do some more deployments for them. But that's about 45 nautical miles away from here, and where we're diving here is on the vents. What can you tell us about the vents, Fabio?
About the vents here at Endeavour.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of the most instrumented sites of our Neptune observatory. There's a lot of different types of instruments, geophysical measuring earthquakes and tsunamis, and also, of course, the fluids, the hot fluids, the chemistry of the hydrothermal vent fluids. That's what we are actually recovering on this dive. RAS PPS device to understand the chemistry. And we have cameras on the seafloor that we're looking at the tube worms and a bunch of other benthic organisms. I've been successfully monitoring this benthic ecosystems for about, what, 9 years now? About that long.
So what do we know about the chemistry right now in these areas?
Ooh, you got me.
Yeah, well, it's pretty cool. So
As I'm a biologist, but
mineral-wise, it's interesting because we recovered at the last dive one of the benthic the bars anyway. One of the instruments developed by University of Washington.
My alma mater, by the way, go Dogs.
Oh,
whoop,
yeah,
whoop.
Go Dogs, whoop, whoop. And it had the part that was actually had been into the hole that we opened to put it into a vent, was coated in iron pyrite. So it actually looked like gold. It was like gold crusted.
Oh, really?
There are places in the world now, Malaysia, for instance, is mining these vents because you get these towers of minerals that is high mineral content and concentrated in a local area. So they're going out with equipment that basically cuts them down and harvests them for potential minerals. And they do exist all around the world. There's vents in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. There's one south of us here and all the way down the coast, in Washington, Oregon coast. And as we acquire more data and more mapping and more identifying of places, there will be other ones to be found.
Yeah.
Those are sulfide deposits. So they're reaching a bunch of different minerals, including gold, silver, cadmium, cobalt, zinc.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a lot of research going on now, actually.
I think that was some of
on the impacts.
some of Mo's research actually too, was as far as mining, finding what locations, what areas at depths were the best locations for possibly mining certain minerals. She had some of her research was revolved around that. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
There's different types of resources, right? There's the manganese nodules on the abyssal plains. They grow like pebbles, like millimeters every hundreds of years. And they have the massive sulfides that deposit on vent structures, on hydrothermal vents. And also on seamounts, you also have what they call cobalt-rich crusts. They also deposit in seamount areas. It's a large group of deep sea experts, deep sea biologists, and they're working with the United Nations. The United Nations has the International Seabed Authority that they
Seabed Authority?
International Seabed Authority, yes, ISA, which regulates, there's lots of contract mining operations in the Pacific, and for in particular the manganese nodule province and the Clarion-Clipperton zone, fracture zone. And there's a lot of studies, ongoing studies on the potential impacts, environmental impacts in the water column, and also on the seafloor from all those mining activities.
Oh, wow.
So the large portion of the community, the deep sea in particular, research community, they're undertaking this massive long-term studies on the recovery of the seabed and how they would affect the organisms.
Interesting.
Life.
So Maynard, where are folks tuning in from today? Hope everyone's having a good night or a good morning, depending on where they are.
Yeah, we got people tuning in from all across the globe, as always. Obviously, we got a lot of our U.S. viewers, but we got viewers in Japan, in Israel, in France, Australia, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Austria, even Finland's tuning in. So yes,
Wow.
we got an amazing global audience, which is fantastic.
Very cool. Australia, so they would know what the weather's like tomorrow later in the day.
Yeah.
Can I get away with shorts too? I just love that. It's already tomorrow there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will get more interesting as we get down. We're again doing a vertical transect, so Fabio's here carefully watching. There's a bunch of, how many different people will end up looking at this footage, Fabio?
Well, a lot of people, a lot of students that are working on this project. Actually, we had a student from Italy that came and 6 months with us. He analyzed at least 3 years of those video transects, and we are
wow.
It sounds like an intern job.
Amalgamating all the results. Yeah, it's well,
find a couple interns and look at 3 years footage of video transects.
Well, 3 years. We're talking about, you know, in one expedition, that's 1 year. So we do like half dozen transects per year. So it's it's a lot of video hours of video, but we are training the computers to do the work for us. Eventually, we'll have machine learning algorithms to detect all these different shapes and forms. That's the goal.
That's next
That's
level.
cool.
That's the way to use technology.
And then our graduate students will be out of a job.
Yeah, I was about to say, what are your interns going to do now?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's cheaper, a computer or an intern?
Yeah.
Hard to say.
You guys see that? I think Tesla announced like this amazing robot that's going to do all the dirty jobs for us humans.
Well, let's hope Boston Dynamics doesn't completely replace us first.
And yeah, a lot of people will be out of jobs.
Like unless you can fix the robots.
Like in the movies. And then the robots will start attacking us.
Skynet.
Maybe Wally one day will get.
Oh, no,
Wally's feisty.
That's why we gotta be nice to Wally. He's gonna remember it.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting a robot to do all my cleaning around that. I'll call it Rosie the robot.
Rosie from the Jetsons.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one as soon as I get promoted to vice president.
Yeah.
Vice President Jetson. Mr. Spacely. What a guy. So those of you watching, wondering who we are, this is, besides the Nautilus, if you're very familiar with the Nautilus, as many of the viewers are, Ocean Networks Canada is a not-for-profit society of the University of Victoria, or a University of Victoria initiative, I think we put on our letterhead. ONC's been around for 15 years. We're in our 15th year right now. It was originally funded and still is funded primarily by the Canadian Foundation for Innovation. 60% of our funds come from CFI. The other 40% comes from a bunch of different sources over the years. Again, primarily government sources, both federally and provincially. The province of British Columbia has been providing us funding since the start at various levels, and within the federal government, Department of Fisheries and Oceans has been one of our larger benefactors, as well as Natural Resources Canada, Transport Canada, Environment Canada, Department of National Defense, and even we get some money out of the U.S. Navy of all things. Yeah. ONC operates where we are now, which is the offshore network called Neptune. We also have an inshore network called Venus. Both are long-term time series cabled observatories. So what we have is a powered fiber optic cable that departs from shore, different places depending on Venus or Neptune. Neptune, it's in Port Alberni, British Columbia. And that one, the Neptune cable, is a 800-kilometer loop. It goes out in a big circle and ends back where it starts. It's for redundancy. If we ever have a severed of cable, we can backhaul the other way around the cable, so we still maintain data and power to our sites, except wherever there would be a compromise on the cable. Luckily, we haven't really had any major compromises on the cable in 15 years. We had some few problems, but not the problems is our compadres, our friends to the south, University of Washington, installed their network, which is called RCN, and they actually, RSN, sorry, they had a volcano erupt and bury part of their cable in hot lava, and so they lost their comms there, which was unfortunate for them. They had to relay some cable. Anyway, back to ONC. So this cable ring on Neptune has 5 different branches off of it, little Ys that go to a node at the end of it, and the node is like a big connector for other fiber optic cables to be plugged into. Those ones travel various distances to instrument platforms, which we refer to as IPs. And those instrument platforms have what are called junction boxes on it, and those junction boxes have up to 10 different ports. So we can directly plug in 10 different instruments to those ports, and we can also run in parallel so a junction box can be and is in some places connected to another junction box. So we can connect a bunch of them together in a series if we have to. As Fabio said, Main Endeavor is our most populated site. We have another site, Upper Barkley Canyon, Upper Slope, that's probably our second most populated site. Both of those have 2 junction boxes, so the main feeder cable coming in the node comes into one junction box, and then in turn power and comms go to the second junction box, which in most cases they're about 70 meters apart. At Main Endeavor, they're almost 100 meters apart. We have again fiber optics connecting the 2 of them, and then off of those various instruments. Offshore, I don't even want to fathom, we've probably got over 1,000 different devices measuring on various instruments. So we might have one instrument that might have 3 devices on it, like our CTDs, which are measuring conductivity, temperature, and depth. The CTDs also can be paired up with oxygen sensors, so we can measure what the concentration of oxygen is in the water. So lots of different instruments that in our network. With ONC, we also have installations on land looking and monitoring for earthquake as part of our the British Columbia government's earthquake early warning system. We've been working with them for the last 4 years on that. Okay. We have installations in the Arctic, from Cambridge Bay up in Nunavut, as well as we're partnering with a lot of different Inuit peoples in different areas and some community observatories. We have an observation on the East Coast in Newfoundland. It's partnered up with the Marine Institute, which is part of the Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland. That was installed this year as well. So slowly we're installing different observatories all across Canada and leading and trying in the world and trying to have the top new technology occurring with our installations. That, I think, is a big... Fabio, did I miss anything on ONC, or Sean, anything we should add in there? The data side. Sean, what do you want to tell us about the data?
Oh, geez. There's so much data going into our website every day. I help curate that data as a data steward. But yeah, there's so many of it that we have to split the tasks off, and some of us specialize in the various types of data that you can find. So that could be like CTD type data, it could be log file data, it could be seismic data, video data, so much data that we're collecting, and we're trying to make it as accessible as possible and as fair as possible as well. Means, and then to elaborate on that, fair means in the world of data that it's findable, accessible, interoperable, and then reusable. So we hope that this data can be used in perpetuity. Yeah, that's what the data stewardship.
And all our data is available on the internet, free of charge. Unless, of course, you're a commercial entity that wants to make some money off of it.
That's right.
But certainly for educational and research purposes, all the data is available. Open data, basically.
Yep.
Brought to you by...
I think we use a CC BY license. So that means as long as ONC is attributed in some way, go at it.
Fabio, on our science side of ONC, what kind of stuff we've got going on?
Well, we have 5 senior scientists at ONC that help all the international and Canadian research community to have access to all this data. But sometimes having this massive amount of data is not enough for people discovering it, and so we are there to understand the data first and understand what kind of processes we are measuring, and to make sure, of course, we go on conferences and we organize conferences and workshops to educate the community of how they can access the data. For, we discuss what kind of research, questions and hypotheses they need the data for. So we kind of make a connection with the external scientific community and make sure the data is transformed in knowledge. So I think since I started ONC in 2013, I've probably helped about 25 scientific publications to be converted from data to a scientific article. And so that's our role there. And of course, we have scientists with different expertise. I'm a biologist, deep sea biologist, and we focus, of course, on our benthic ecosystems that we have, submarine canyons and deep sea ecosystems like abyssal plains and hydrothermal vents, cold seeps. Well, we have 2 geophysicists as well that they're interested in gas hydrates formation and dynamics, and of course earthquakes and tsunamis, geohazards. That's Martin Hisman. He was in charge of this big part of this cruise that we was deploying a lot of instruments for his mega project that Ian can talk a little bit more about it. And we also have physical oceanographers that also make the connection with all the projects that use currents and water mass properties from our sensors.
So we've got a lot of data. The data, especially on the video and the hydrophone data that comes in. ONC's got more than a petabyte. Petabyte
of data.
Petabyte. A petabyte, which is 1,000,000 gigabytes.
Yeah.
Wow.
More than that. So servers and and we've got
later on this dive, you're going to see us installing a new camera at the main endeavor field. It's actually a replacement, temporary replacement from a camera that was installed for almost 6-7 years, Temple Mini.
Yep.
And so, we record hourly or bi-hourly data. Here at Endeavour, we collect 20 minutes of footage. So you imagine the quantity of data for
20 minutes per hour, right?
20 minutes. No, for here we're, I think, every 4 hours.
Every 4
Yeah.
hours. Okay.
Every 4 hours, but still.
20 minutes every 4 hours?
Yeah. Most of our other cameras we collect every hour, 5 minutes every hour. So, and in Barkley Canyon, we have footage for almost 10 years now. So if you,
Video footage especially adds up. It's very data intensive. Lots of volume.
But it's also one of the most, accessible, and a lot of our scientific output from the observatory is coming largely from this video video data sets. Of course, they come along with a bunch of ancillary oceanographic data, so it's really useful. You can see the animals and how they're behaving and how their community is changing over time, and you can track that and say what kind of environmental cues the communities are, they're responding to.
Right.
So this camera we're replacing, what's its prognosis? Why does it have to be replaced?
It's not there anymore.
Well, I can tell you what happened there. So, and you'll see it later in the dive, which will be in the wee hours of the morning in British Columbia. So the Tempo Mini was placed up on Grotto, which is one of the vents, which has multiple vents connected to it, but it's like a peak of a pinnacle or a seamount, very small. It's only about 20 meters tall compared to the surrounding bathymetry.
Really?
What?
A tower structure, right?
Yeah, it's a tower. And a ledge up there on the tower was where Tempo Mini was placed, and there was an active worm colony and all kinds of biology going on with the venting there. So we had a digital stills camera up there, as well as the Tempo Mini platform, which was developed by Infirmier, a French research institution. The ledge that it was on is sort of a cantilever out, so hanging like a, many condominiums around the world have cantilevered decks that people go out, stand on. But this one, if you look at it, and you'll see it, there's the substructure to it has been not corroding, but it's sort of like eroding away, I guess you would say it, eroding away underneath it, falling off, and eventually the heavier material that the platform Tempo Mini was on, that substrate broke away, so the cantilever broke and fell with Tempo Mini down about 10 meters to the slope below, and part of it was buried, the cable was buried. Last year when we were out here, we were digging some of it out, and we recovered the Tempo Mini platform, but not all the cable, some of it still is buried, but and the platform that it was on, we've now put back up on the top further in. But when we get there, you'll see, if you look at that, where the new base is, the new platform that we will put the RAS, PPS, and the new camera on, it's being undermined still. So I'm a bit worried that in another few years that will then collapse and it will fall down again. And that's part of science. That's the risk that we take in what we do. But Grotto is changing, and the new vents are opening and other vents are closing. And depending on where you go, for instance, where we go with the bars last year, when we were out on Nautilus, we put a bars into a vent, a new vent, which we will be going back to this year or soon on this trip, on this dive tonight, or again in the morning hours. We came back like 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later.
I was not here last year.
Yeah, and it had grown by 4 feet. So what was this very little crack in the earth suddenly had this 4-foot chimney on it with the probe embedded right into it, and it was pretty impressive to see how quickly that formed. And then to the south, at the main Endeavour South platform, the area there that they call is being called Sanyan Village. There, we constantly have that problem with the bars that's installed there. If the chimney builds itself up and then just collapses on itself, so it just gets like a volcano, certain height high, and then it just falls in on itself.
Yeah.
Some of them are more stable and bigger. Place that we are not going this year, which is called Faulty Towers, which which is our Mothra site. The towers at Faulty Towers, we were there last year, and there's video footage of that, both I think on Nautilus's website and certainly on the oceannetworks.ca, Ocean Networks Canada's website. You can see some of the video of the vents at Faulty Towers, and one of the chimneys at Faulty Towers at the Mothra site was harvested, cut in sections, and one of those sections is in the Museum of Natural History in New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think Kim was the one that did that. He was telling us.
Kim Wallace, who's our navigator on here, was part of that group that harvested that. They got a special permit to do it. It was done in conjunction with the University of Washington and a Canadian ROV company, and they went out and designed a special saw to cut it off, and they took a bunch of different sections that ended up in a few different natural history museums, including in New York, and Smithsonian I think got one, and then in Canada a couple of different locations that I'm not sure which ones. But this is now the Endeavour hydrothermal vent area is a marine protected area. So in short, it's an MPA, and so as a marine protected area, we have to get special permits just to dive down here. Special permits to touch and do anything, and our goal is to hopefully leave it as undisturbed as possible, but yet still enable ourselves to do the science. So sometimes there's conflicting there between being able to do the science and not touching anything, and that's if people might see us in the wee hours of the morning, depending on where we are with bars. One of those chimneys that I was talking about, the 4-foot-high chimney sort of thing, we'll take a metal rod and, for lack of better words, just to expose the flow coming out of it. And I think historically we've had people comment on that and say how terrible it was that we've just destroyed that. But again, those vents will build themselves back up in a matter of days, depending on where they are and how much flow is coming out of them. So we do that to be able to put the temperature probe in there so it's sealed properly, and the scientists on shore can see the temperatures and the resistivities of what is coming out of those vents, and that's just that one instrument, the bars. So say later on, well, we're almost to the 1,000 where we'll be speeding up to continue our way to the bottom. The bottom's at a little under 2,200 meters deep. So it'll take us another hour and a bit to get down there. But once we're there, we'll be right into the vents, and you'll hopefully be able to see some good stuff.
We'll be at the vents just in time for me to leave.
Yeah, after midnight Pacific time. Probably about 12:30.
Ooh, it's a pressure question. I might know this one. PSI on the sea floor. I know as we descend, I believe we increase 1 atmospheric pressure every 10 meters. So this location, we're going to be at, I'm not exactly how far we're diving, but we'll be over 2,000 meters for sure. So for as far as PSI, I believe that's 14.7 for every 200 meters that you descend. So I would think once you start passing 2,000 meters, you're probably around 2,900 PSI, around there.
Right, so where we're at now, coming up to 900 meters, is about the deepest your typical submarine would go. So when you see those movies with Vitali giving one ping and one ping only, Hunt for Red October reference there, good movie. Yeah. Maximum most submarines will go is right about now. They get down below 900 meters. You get into depths that they will never recover from, and they will just get crushed under their own weight. We take, and I don't know if anybody's put them on this. I saw people doing it the other day, the coloring up styrofoam cups.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be doing that later, probably when we head back to our other site.
Back to Cascadia?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that's...
What's our deepest site?
Well, Cascadia is the deepest, but if you're going to do it, that'll be on the cable ship lays. So we have two